Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
Did you see who got cast as Katie Keene?
No.
Lucy Hale.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought she has a show.
It got canceled.
Oh. She's tiny.
Yeah. So is Ashley Murray.
Oh, yeah.
I think it'll be good. I'm excited. I like her a lot, and this is...
No, she looks like Katy Perry, so...
Yeah, and this looks less likely to fail than that other show she was on.
Life Sentence or something?
Yeah, I wanted to watch it, and then I never got around to it, and then it got canceled, so I was like, what's the point?
Okay, well, welcome to our trepidatious season 2 coverage of American Gods.
Yep.
We have both watched the premiere, and if I'm assuming that you listened to our season
full
1 American Gods coverage, we're actually going to do a full episodic coverage of that at some point, just because it's one of my favorite shows of all time, and that's a really good jumping off point, because I guess I'll say that it's a mixed bag for me. What did you think?
I mostly liked it. I didn't really see any diminished quality. It's hard to judge how the story is going to go this season with just one episode, so I can't judge if the story and the writing are going to stay the same. But I mostly liked it. I thought it looked really good. I did notice that it didn't seem to have the same, strange sheen as season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly I thought it looked great. I thought it was really a fun episode. I liked having all the gods together in one room.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
Yeah, so is what I was starting. I wanted to give you a chance to say something, because I was about to just start just like blah 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 blah. But yeah. The hardest part for me is going to be divorcing this from season 1.
Right.
If I watched this show, if I happened to see this episode, I would have thought it was incredible. I would have been like, oh my God, this is so cool. But because of how bombastic season 1 was, I mean, season 1 was like Phantasmagoria. It's like, it was so, it was more than I could have ever dreamed of. And so as such, it is genuinely tainting my viewing of this season, because I do see a difference.
I'm wondering if there's a way to help you treat it like a different thing, like parts of a trilogy or something.
I've already figured out.
Okay.
I am looking at season 2 as a metaphor for the situation where, not unlike the New Gods, the show itself has fallen on hard times.
Cool. Do it up.
And it's a little bit of a shell of what it once was, but is there enough magic in there for it to
I think
survive?
So. I definitely think so.
I will say I was, like I said, mixed bag. I have 4 notes that I wrote down, and then I have it divided by the good and the bad, things that I liked, things that I didn't like. I liked it more than I was anticipating.
Good.
I actually was very impressed with that. Okay, is the House on the Rock, is that real?
Yes.
That's real.
Yep.
We're going.
No, I know. I already told Will.
Okay. I was like, I will see this.
I was like, we should take a trip to Wisconsin. This seems actually so cool. And I was like, because that's the other thing. I was like, I've spent so much time in my life in Wisconsin. I was like, I can't believe I've never been to this.
Yeah.
And I
can't believe I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely real.
Yeah. So the entire chunk from the carousel to the diner scene, I was living. One of the questions that I had wondered was Cloris Leachman going to be back? I also was sort of, as much as I've been complaining about season 2, I was a little bit avoiding stuff, because I was if there was going to be any glimmers of hope, I wanted to experience them in real time.
Sure.
And we didn't really touch on I don't even think we said her name when we were talking about season 1.
I think we did.
But she is the morning sister.
The morning sister, yeah.
She is Zariah, the morning sister. And even she is so old, so old. And yet even in her old age, she still is magnetic.
She is, yeah. And she's like also so pretty. And
she was so beautiful in this, more so than she was in season 1.
Well, I think they've gained a little something since then. And then also the relatively like aggressive sexuality that she and Wednesday have with each other is like probably my favorite part.
That he is still so enraptured by her.
Yeah, I love it.
Just as much as the young maiden that he beds, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like that he is that type of scoundrel.
It is specifically sexual.
Yes.
It's not just like a staid like elderly romance. They are sexually interested in each other, and I love that that's portrayed on this show.
Because we didn't comment on their kiss in the rain in season 1.
Which was awesome.
Basically, the things I wrote down for my good, it was a little bit more stylish than I was anticipating. I enjoyed the miniature roadmap.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? With the cigarette put out on it.
Mm-hmm. I have subconsciously been waiting for any acknowledgement of Disney and Disney World, because I feel like Disney or Mickey would be a god in this reality. Yeah. And it appears he will not be, but I appreciate the mention.
Sure.
We also got hard confirmation that mermaids are real.
Oh, yeah.
And that the Wiki-Watchy mermaids are, in fact, real mermaids.
Uh-huh.
I wrote down Zariah and Chernobog. I was very glad to see them both back, and their scenes. Cloris Leachman and Peter Stormare. Bilquis. Just Oliver.
Yeah, for sure. 100%, all of it. I love her so much. I love that she's getting more to do. And they did mention Easter. I felt kind of mixed about it, but I had a delightful thought, which is, what if sort of by default we just get Easter as the queen? Like, she's playing both sides right now, but I don't know how long that's going to last.
I just don't think she's coming back.
Bilquis?
No. Oh, Bilquis is the queen. Yeah. Easter. Well, sure. But I mean, I feel like we were getting Bilquis anyways.
Well, sure.
That is the second thing. The Kristen Chenoweth of it all is the second thing that I am going to have to just let go. And I'm going to dump it all right here. I promise. I think I will not drag this out in a Bo Peepian fashion.
That lasted for 10 fucking years. If this lasts for 10 years, the podcast canceled.
Okay, you two overreact so much of my Bo Peep thing. I've made comments about it, but you act like it's some weird. I mean, it's less than my Julia Louis-Dreyfus thing, which at this point I'm gonna watch the last season of Veep. It looks hilarious, but
yeah.
But no, that excuse was such bullshit, because I mean he had done that before he even entered the room, and it just it was. And if that were going to be the case, then I needed to witness Easter telling him off. I mean, She did it 3 times in that episode. It was just such a weird. I thought it was absolutely bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I am. On the one hand, I agree that it's bullshit. On the other hand, they had to address it somehow, because she literally agreed to be his queen, and it feels very capricious for her to be like, "But you killed my bunnies, so you're on thin ice for now."
Yeah, but it's like, if this was stalling to get her back, then I would accept it. But it's like, I just feel so unbelievably robbed of her presence in this episode.
Yeah.
If she had gotten furious with him in this episode and was like, "You are a con man. I cannot believe I took a chance on you. I'm leaving," and peaced out forever, I would accept that.
Sure.
But it's just like, it was just so phoned in, and I was starving for her in the early dialogue, and I will also never be able to truly sleep at night, because I will be wondering what her god form looked like.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Their god forms were so good.
So cool, right? Yeah, I did finally see the Anansi, obviously, and he looks very cool.
The spider eyes?
Uh-huh.
I have Mr. Nancy, and Orlando Jones in my good column.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to get a lot more of him this season.
I'm stoked about it, too.
Yeah, the spider eyes were so incredible. I really thought that they were all just going to be gold, and I was bored. I was like, whatever, they're all going to be gold and glowing. And by the time they had finally finished all the effects and stuff, there was so much texture, there was so much vibrancy, there was so much life.
And Bilquis is very gold, but that's on brand. The rest of them are all very on brand.
Yeah, and we had really only seen the 2 shots of Bilquis and then Odin.
Yeah.
And my favorite one was Zaraya. It was Cloris Leachman. She was in that purple kind of like turn-of-the-century boardwalk-esque gown.
Yep.
And she had the 2 other sisters' faces hovering.
Which was awesome.
And then they all had halos. It was, I freeze framed. I flipped it back and then walked through frame by frame so that I could like soak it all in.
Yeah.
Their god forms and that whole set, all of that. That was finally where I was like, okay, this is still the show. It still can do this. Now it's a matter of, did they blow it all? Because, I mean, that happens sometimes on first and last episodes. Is it like, is this all we get until the finale? Or
I don't know. On the one hand, maybe. On the other hand, I do feel like this season might be a little more laid back. It's going to be even more of a road trip, like especially with Laura and Mad Sweeney. So it could really go either way. But the preview for the season seemed like it had a lot more imagery. So I don't know. It could go either way. I feel uncomfortable predicting things like that after one episode only.
Yeah, and we do. I mean, we have 7 more episodes.
Is it only 8 again? I thought they upped it to 10.
Only 8. No, it's 8 again. Be glad. Be happy.
No, for sure. Then that way the budget is better. But no, I get it.
I don't think we need more scenes of them talking in less exhilarating dialogue.
No, of course. Although I didn't think the dialogue suffered that much. And specifically, I think my favorite line of dialogue was... Laura says to Mad Sweeney something about luck, and he says, "All my luck is yours, dead wife." And but
he said it twice, and
no, he didn't say the same thing twice.
Okay,
he said that only once, and I was like, that's a really interesting and charged way to phrase that, and I really liked it.
Yeah, well, then I just didn't. I have the script. I wrote down stilted and expository.
Oh, I disagree. Expository, I guess a little, but only I think because it was episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're gonna ease back in a little. Episode 1 of season 1 was there was a lot happening.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like we were catching up, locals. Like it was, I don't know. It just, and that was just how I felt. I found it to be a little bit slow paced, and I didn't find the dialogue to be nearly as snazzy. And maybe it was the way they were filming the dialogue. I don't know, but this felt more common to me. And I watched it last night by myself, and then I watched it again this morning with my mom. And I didn't really say anything to her, and I asked her what she thought afterwards, and she still very much likes it. So that's sort of for lack of a better word to describe my mom, a layman's perspective. She did, however, comment that it felt more like a TV show than season 1.
And I think it's because they're not filming it that same way.
And she said, like, this feels like it could have been on NBC or CBS. And I was like, that's pretty damning, actually. But
I don't think it could have been on NBC or CBS. It could be on Sci-Fi, which I think is less damning.
But I, unfortunately, kind of zoned out every time Mr. World was talking.
Oh.
I think that there was a lack of mystery in this. I could see them trying to do mystery.
Yeah.
But like when they were on the carousel, because the closest that came was when Bilquis said to Shadow, "I'll keep you safe." And it just, well, like I said, my Waterloo is going to be not comparing this to season 1, because I just was like, Bryan Fuller would have flourished that in such a way that it was sort of just there.
That's the thing, though, is it feels like you're mad at the show, and I'm mad at Bryan Singer specifically, and so Fuller, god damn it, I do that every time, don't I? I'm mad at Bryan Singer too for different reasons. No, I'm mad at Bryan Fuller specifically, and I sort of like. Maybe I am liking the show not more than season 1, obviously, but maybe I'm liking it out of spite, because I'm like, Bryan Fuller doesn't need to be here. It can still be good.
I don't need you.
I don't even need you anymore. Don't worry about it. I'm doing just fine.
There might be nothing they could do about this. I will go ahead and acknowledge that I am probably being incredibly nitpicky with this, but I felt like there was a disconnect between the end of episode 8 of season 1 and the beginning of episode 1 of season 2, because it's like the Easter thing. It's like, why on earth he was just with her? Why would Mr. Nancy need to deliver this message?
Yeah.
And then even
they're wearing the same. They're all wearing the same clothes as Easter, and so it's like, huh?
It says it's still Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and then Mr. World is like, find media. And I'm like, how did you lose her?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
where? Where did she go?
You guys were together too.
And so it's like that. And again, nitpicky, maybe
Actually,
the show didn't have.
The Mr. World thing makes sense because he was only inhabiting one of those golems.
Okay. Well, Technical Boy was there, though.
That's true. Technical Boy was there. Well, I don't know. Withdrawn then. It's just like Easter and media ran away together. That's how we go. Easter and media ran away together and they're having a lesbian affair.
Lesbian love affair? Okay. Well, because that's the problem. And the other issue with Kristen Chenoweth is that I don't know what happened. The last thing she said, and she's a pretty open book, is she said that she didn't know what was going on with the show. She said, obviously, I came in with Bryan Fuller. She said, I would do anything he asked me for. She said, last I heard, they were bringing in new showrunners. And she said, who knows what they'll have in mind for me or if I'll even have value.
Yeah.
So that made it feel like the show dismissed her, which feels weird because I would say maybe she's expensive, but she can't be because she was on season 2 of Trial and Error.
Yeah, she can't be that expensive.
And so, I mean, maybe they reached out and she resigned out of loyalty to Bryan Fuller.
That could be. I mean, I really don't know. I wish we could be in these rooms, but. And
we talked a lot about her devout Christian faith. So maybe it's the kind of thing that she trusted Bryan's ability, but maybe because we're not dealing with, I don't know who we're dealing with because I read a synopsis about the Troubles.
Yeah.
And this isn't that Jesse guy either. So this isn't Neil Gaiman isn't show running, nor is the Jesse guy. It's like a third person, and I think it's 2.
It's also so weird because Bryan Fuller is still producing it.
Well, it's just, I mean, that shit happens. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me.
But they did also add Ian McShane as an EP, and that felt new.
Oh, also, this is just, I have no reason. This isn't actually a bad thing per se, but when Bilquis kissed Laura, I thought it should have rejuvenated Laura.
I was thinking it might also, and it didn't, and I was a little bummed.
Probably not permanently, but I figured it would be a good way to cut some budget. And also, I thought of it more as a Jennifer's Body thing, where she just needs a jolt every so often to like.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it did do the kind of thing where she's like, she'll like last longer now, but I think it would have been something would have been directly said. That
felt like a blessing from the goddess of love and beauty.
Right, so exactly.
I mean, maybe we will see ramifications or repercussions of that throughout the show. I would certainly hope.
Yeah, although I don't know what budget it would cut because all they were doing is putting ugly pancake makeup on her. Yeah,
I don't know. I would hope something would come from that.
Yeah, I think I think it's like a matter of time, maybe.
So we do have to pour one out. We need a sound effect for that.
Yeah.
I am not surprised, although I am very sad. I really don't know what they would have done with the 100-year-old Cloris Leachman on this show, but there is obviously nothing more American than random acts of gun violence in places, diners, what have you. And so there was a shootout in the diner with the gods, and true to form, the victim was an elderly. I guess she wasn't innocent because she was an old god, and it was the point to sell.
Well, sure, but she hadn't.
Or just in the message. But.
We also have not witnessed her doing anything untoward.
Yeah,
and so for our purposes, she was an innocent.
And just like it would have been one thing if it was like Chernobog or I mean, I didn't want to lose Mad Sweeney, but it's like if it was a thug that got shot, we'd have been like whatever. But it was this like old lady in this beautiful lilac gown. Yeah. I'm just sad. I'm sad about it. I hopefully will. I was interested. I'm very intrigued in Mama G. Is that what he called her?
Yeah, she's basically Kali.
Kali, yeah. And frankly, I wanted to know more about a couple of the old gods, and I desire to see either them specifically or a couple more show up. I have reason to believe we might get Thor because he was conspicuously name dropped.
He was.
And then I saw a hammer in the coming up on American Gods.
Nice. Yeah, we'll see.
So more gods is what I say.
I agree with more gods.
And honestly, I'm a little bit on Bilquis' side at this point.
No, I mean, she makes a case. That's part of the gray area that's so fun about this show is it's like, yeah, the old gods have been there longer, But the new gods are making some good points.
Well, and her whole thing was evolve or die, and I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So, and I did write down, I noticed that on the carousel, Shadow Moon got on the eagle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the world's worst kept secret at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I clocked it. I didn't say,
Shadow's got some secrets, and they are utilizing some very specific imagery for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, if I can get over the comparison to season 1 and the show can continue, because I mean, this is Neil Gaiman after all. So, yes, but it will be less. I will say season 2 is not as good, blah, blah, blah. But my fear is that it had a lukewarm reception. I mean, it was critically acclaimed, but it was only a medium hit with viewers in season 1. And I don't think taking stuff away from it is going to bring in viewers.
That's fair. I can agree with that.
So I am afraid that this is just going to kind of limp to its demise.
My only argument is that if they're making it for cheaper enough and it stays with the same amount of viewers, we will probably still get a season 3.
In which case they'll probably wrap it up and it'll
exactly.
Yeah.
So. It'll be just the book and they will forego any of Neil Gaiman's extra content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I think that's it.
All right.
And I don't think any of you were clamoring for my Now Apocalypse coverage. So
we can do that separate at some point.
So, okay, well, we'll check in with you next week.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so we saw the second episode of season 2 of American Gods, titled
Correct.
The Beguiling Man.
Cool.
I don't know why it's called that. Oh, is it the guy in the hospital? Do you know?
No.
Okay. This is new territory for us, episodic, because we've never covered something like this where you've read the book. So in a sense, you know where we're going.
Yeah.
But the show has already made departures. So you don't know everything.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm kind of flying blind, honestly, because it's been a while since I read the book, and so I actually had to look up something when I was watching this on Sunday because I wasn't sure I was remembering like the big reveal correctly, and it turns out I wasn't. But yeah, it's interesting.
The big reveal of the show?
Of the book.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm having a hard time not asking you, and we've learned the hard way that I would rather not know.
Mm-hmm.
But I am aware that there is something coming, and I don't possibly know what it is, because so far I feel like it's very obvious what is happening.
Well, it's very obvious what's happening in the show.
Okay.
But it's not obvious what's sort of there's some subtext that has yet to become text.
Okay.
Is what's going on. There is a lot I've told you before, and it's all I'll say because I don't want to tell you, and I certainly don't want to tell you on this episode. I don't want to spoil it for other people. They are using very deliberate imagery for Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
It's on everything about Shadow is on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I've pretty much said from the beginning that I was like, I feel like with a show called American Gods, we have to be dealing with a Native American element. So I just assumed that one of his parents was Black and one of them was Native American. That's been my assumption. And
we did find out that his mother is Black. Yeah.
And my second assumption is that he is a god, or certainly there has been several mentions to children of gods.
Mm-hmm.
And because there was a line in Come to Jesus where Easter says they are gods for God's sakes, and Wednesday is like they're sons of gods.
Right.
And so that's all I really have to go on. So we met his mother. She was fine. I'm still having my issue, and I promise that I will not continue to bring it up because that's going to make for an uninteresting recap. I'm going to give myself to episode 4.
Okay.
And some of it I think is unfair. Like, I think I'm doing it to myself. Because let me ask you, are you enjoying this?
I am. I want to say I'm enjoying it differently, but part of that is because I don't know what they're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
because it's so different. Like, a lot of season 1 is like pretty close to the book. And I liked the changes that they made with like giving Audrey and Laura specifically more material. And so I feel similarly to that in season 2 so far, where I like what they're doing and I like Laura and Mad Sweeney together. It's like a really fun screwball comedy, which we've talked about before. But part of me could just 100% completely forgotten what is happening at this point in the book. And so I can't tell one way or another if they're going the direction I think they're going or if they're going a different direction. And so that's kind of difficult. But
it's just the writing is bothering me. I don't think it's as good. I don't think it's as sharp. And I'm especially bummed out by that because like on a whim, like I wasn't even looking for it. I happened to see a name I recognized and it's written by a guy that I follow on Twitter. And I was like, oh, I like him. And I was like, ooh, I wish I liked this episode more than I did.
See, I'm not having a problem with the writing at all.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's some stuff that's not quite as sharp, but I don't know that I feel like there was more going on in early season 1 that lended itself to more like poetic, flowery language. And I'm not sure that is still happening right now.
It felt more whimsical. It felt more mysterious. It felt more wicked. And this is just flatter to me. Like, I think I said last week that this is registering to me like mediocre fan fiction. Like,
yeah, I don't really. I'm definitely not having that same problem.
Because the back and forth between Laura and Mad Sweeney in the car, it felt like material. Because she's like, I'm an atheist. I'm like, oh, fucking, of course you are. We already knew that. Second of all, I don't know. It feels like they're trying to catch people up. Like, it feels like they're thinking people are only now watching the show.
Well,
and
that
so they're trying to reestablish everything in this like flat way.
That could be, and I could agree with you on that for sure. Only specifically because they made such an advertising push. I could believe that Starz was like, throw in a couple things so that people who didn't watch season 1 will get it. One of my biggest issues, actually, it's the only thing I have like not actively disliked, but I haven't liked as much as everything else so far in season 2, was the scene with Technical Boy just sort of like shouting into the void of media.
Yeah.
Which I definitely really like all the actors, and you've talked that you really like all the actors too. And I think Bruce Langley is super great. I think he's doing everything he needs to with Technical Boy, especially being so physically different from his description in the book. However, again, and I'm with you, I will give it till episode 4 and I'm going to stop complaining about Bryan Fuller. But that is a conversation that could have easily been avoided had Bryan Fuller stuck around and Gillian Anderson had stuck around. You know what I mean? He didn't need to have that scene. It was kind of time wasty. And the reason we needed to do it is because media is going to look different. Mm-hmm. Because it's an Asian woman now playing her, which, again, I'm all for. I can't wait to see her. I think we're getting her next week. But the problem for me comes from that not being necessary.
With the reveal that we're going to get, I don't think we will have needed 3 episodes of build up to it. Like,
right, exactly.
I think she could just be there. And I think I would be fine with it. I mean, granted, I have an understanding to the behind the scenes drama,
sure,
but it feels like they're treading, to me, it feels like they are treading water with less panache. And it's like, if you're going to be treading water, because the only line that in this episode that got me, that felt like American Gods, is when Laura was lying in the field and she said, I'm just another dead girl in a field.
Yeah.
And I laughed at that. That was so dark and so like the way she did it. And it's the stuff like that. Like, and even, I mean, I laughed at Mr. Nancy when him and Sweeney were going back and forth.
Right.
And basically Orlando Jones' line reading of "bugger off yourself, bitch."
Yeah. No,
but
I mean,
it's like, that's
and
not
Orlando Jones is a consulting producer this season.
Wow.
Which feels wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm for it, but it feels bananas. And so there is a lot of stuff like that. I do want to say, I think a lot of the imagery is, to be honest, still living up for me. Like, well, I mean, every shot of Shadow strung up on those, like, electrodes or whatever. But specifically, where you mentioned Laura lying in the field, I mean, that is straight out of Ophelia. Mm-hmm. Like, that just is that painting of Ophelia. And then even...
I couldn't tell I don't think the flowers were real, but they at least weren't like Joanne Fabrics flowers, because
they weren't Once Upon a Time flowers.
Yeah, where you can see the glue on them, like
right.
So yeah.
And then even the scene, or like right after that, the shot where like Mad Sweeney just like puts his arms like totally around her shoulders, and I like all of that. Like the imagery for me is still working, but I guess I do get it a little bit with the writing. It's not actively bothering me, but I do I guess agree that it's a little less good than season 1, but I definitely agree with what you said about treading water. And the thing for me is, if the episode order were 10, I would allow 2 episodes of treading water. I would be like, okay, fine. Because that's when you've got 2 extra episodes, I would allow them to catch up people who are just starting now. Mm-hmm. Like, that's fine with me. But because we still have only 8,
we're a fourth of the way through, you know?
Yeah, I'm like, why are we treading all this water? This doesn't make any sense to me. And so that's kind of, I definitely can agree with you on that. But for the most part, I'm still enjoying it. I definitely still think it's interesting, and I definitely love watching these characters and these actors interact with each other.
And I will say that I was excited when I realized it was Sunday and I got to watch it, and I am excited for this coming Sunday. So I guess I am still enjoying it. I guess this may be just bratty of me. I may be pitching a bit of a fit because it's not the way I want it. You know what I mean?
Well, sure. But I mean, I get that. I pitch fits all the time when books aren't what I still haven't seen The Giver. Because I know it's not what
medium.
I know it's not what I want from a book adaptation of that, and so I don't want to be disappointed. But it's, I don't know, there just is like the pairings that they're continuing with are really great, and like I do love the Mr. Wednesday and Nancy stuff, especially because I really feel like it was a hard dig at Green Book when he threw the fried chicken out the window.
No, it absolutely was
fucking hysterical.
Because it was on purpose. I followed the writer.
Oh my God, did he actually say it was?
No,
Thank God.
he didn't confirm that line, but he was against Green Book winning. So
okay. Cool.
I read between the lines, but
I literally was watching that and he threw it out the window and he was like, oh my God, so good. I just was like, fuck me. That was incredible.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left. I do want to cover at least a few points. They had Zariah's funeral, for lack of a better word, and they sort of said that she's kind of gone at this point, that there's no one left that believes in her. So they have lost her. Mm-hmm. We were introduced to Mr. Town. I mean, based on his name, I assume I know his deal, but I don't understand why he was in a train or what specifically he was doing. I mean, they were mining Shadow's memories for something.
Right. I think that's stuff I can't talk about.
Okay.
But
we're going somewhere.
Yeah, I will say Mr. Town is a Mr. World henchman. He's like, if you think about it in that way, he's like he's a step below, because there were towns before there was the world.
Precisely.
But I mostly don't care what his deal is. I just love watching Dean Winters be a dick on my television, because it's like his resting state, and I can't get enough.
Yeah. So we did meet Shadow's mom. We found out that Shadow grew up in France, but she made a comment referring to the fact that he was not French.
Right.
So I don't know why. She seemed like a little bit of a revolutionary, like a bohemian.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. And but I think she moved them to like Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was like, and then Shadow had like kind of a hard time, and that's when he started like getting in fights and stuff. I liked the kid that they picked for him, but it was a weird place to decide to throw all these flashbacks. Mm-hmm. It felt a little bit disjointed, but I mean, it was all good information to have.
I like that we pretty much got hard confirmation that he is a good guy. We assumed so, although we met him under mysterious circumstances. But Shadow himself doesn't like bullies. And
right.
It's nothing new. It's very standard character tropes, but it was nice to know that he does like to protect people, protect innocent. It's nice in a hero and a leading man.
Well, sure, it's nice in a hero, but it's also nice in somebody that you have who is like a bruiser, essentially, where it's like he still is like getting in fights and he's like a bodyguard, but he has like a moral compass, which we've always known, but it was nice to know that he has always had it, that's just innate to Shadow. It's not something he had to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then his mother did die of an illness, presumably cancer.
Yeah, I assumed cancer for sure.
And as I mentioned at the top of the episode, he was given a coin by somebody.
It was definitely Mr. Wednesday.
It didn't sound like him.
I think it was, though.
Okay.
I honestly, that's not coming from my book reading. That's just, I was like, oh, well.
Well, then why did they bother to obscure? Because that is so painfully obvious that I discounted it.
Oh, well,
Do you know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, I think it's because we're not supposed to know. Also, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much. I feel like we have a little bit of a tendency to do that sometimes, but we are generally more sophisticated,
sharper
than the average TV watcher. And obviously not to discount Stars, because 2 of my favorite shows on television are on Stars right now, but they are not really operating towards, the upper echelon. Like, they don't get nominations for awards, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of where I just sort of feel like they're trying to make like delicious television, and we are a little bit sharper than that because we do watch so many things and such a variety of things, and we wrote a book. So I feel like we are looking for clues in places that like other viewers will be like, oh my god, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like when the reveal actually happens. And so that's...
Oh, I don't know. I thought Wednesday felt too obvious. So
well, I
we'll
just
see.
assumed that assumed it was him. So we will hopefully see. But because who else would give him a coin? It certainly wasn't Mad Sweeney.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Someone we haven't met. I mean, it could have been Mr. World. Well, probably not. You're right. Not a coin. But
well, and especially because 20 years ago, Mr. World was not as much of a thing.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm definitely curious. I assumed it was Wednesday. I'm happy to be wrong.
I feel like we learned a bit about Mad Sweeney because when him and Laura were going back and forth, he came down real hard on her about sleeping with Robbie. And Sweeney just said to betray your one sworn love is the greatest crime. And it was emphasis on the word sworn that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't vague, like a vague platitude, like your one true love. It's like he acknowledged that you have made a decision.
Right. And it wasn't even like you broke vows. It was that you're right. The emphasis on the word sworn was very specific. I don't really want it, but I am interested if there was a lady love for Mad Sweeney who also cheated.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah. So now there's apparently a baron in the French Quarter of New Orleans that he's going to take Laura to. Well, now's not the time because we're out of time to have this conversation, but I was just going to launch into the whole, like, what does Laura want? Because obviously she's pretending like she loves Shadow and wants to be with him, but it's like, I feel like it's entirely selfish on her part. I feel like she just wants to be alive again. And I mean, she's still, it's like to literally be in the presence of gods and still be as dismissive and arrogant as she's being.
Yeah, that's why I hope because that's what I told you in season 1 that and up until this point, I really liked that they have kept her around beyond her scope in the book. I love that they've given her more stuff. But I really hope they're building to something because that's the thing for me where like Shadow wasn't given official proof until episode 8 of season 1. He didn't see anything that couldn't be explained by like a bad trip essentially until the end of season 1. But now Laura has watched so many things happen. Also, she's alive again because of a coin and she's still not believing.
She's
and that
such
kind
a
of
mouthy bitch. It's like
that's the thing, and I'm like, you literally are here with a leprechaun who is trying to get you your life back and has introduced you to multiple gods, and you're still being a cunt about it. And I'm just like, you gotta loosen up at some point.
So we'll see. He took her through his rainbow bridge, or he called it the Horde.
The Horde, yeah.
It was cool. I loved all the gold coins that like fell out of the sky when they materialized. So basically, the last 2 points I have is Mr. World is disappointed in Bilquist for not being able to pull off anything.
Like a coup, yeah.
Yeah. And also Mr. World has a gross misunderstanding as to how hydras work.
Yeah.
I was like, is that foreshadowing? Because you don't understand how that...
Because you have to, like, crush their heads, right?
Well, I don't remember how Hercules ended up killing the Hydra, and I do think it is Hercules. I don't think that's just Disney. But the whole thing is if you cut off one head, two more grow.
Yeah, and he was like, lasso all the heads and cut them all off together.
At once. And I was like, it's not the speed in which you do it. Because I know he burns it. That's what it is. He cuts off the head and then cauterizes it.
Okay.
I was just like, that's not how Hydras work, Mr. World. But there was a debate that I was very curious to wonder if it was even going to be acknowledged. And it's something that we're going to explore ad nauseum in the next book, Mythos. Mm-hmm. But whether or not love is a powerful tool of war.
I mean, it absolutely is.
Well, that's what World said. He said it was the most powerful, but Bilquis very confidently said love and war are on opposite ends of a coin. So
Well, she said you don't want them to meet.
Okay.
I think that was a deliberate phrasing. I think it basically means you don't want them involved with each other.
Okay.
But I did like that line.
Yeah, I hope we explore this a little bit more.
Me too.
And I mean, Yetidi did more with a single tear in that scene than
oh my God,
I like
totally.
Crispin Glover. I don't know. I'm having issues with Mr. World in these 2 episodes.
Well, he definitely is one of the characters for me that like did better like seeing him only sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've really upped his game. And while I do love Crispin Glover, I think he is a dose best taken intermittently.
Mm-hmm. And then the last thing I think is important to say is that Wednesday sacrificed his car, Betty the Barbarian. Mm-hmm. He called her a berserker, too.
He did, yeah.
But he sacrificed her to the locomotive. I don't know if there's going to be consequences to that, but it showed in his eyes when the train hit the car. It showed a horse galloping because, fuck, what is Odin's horse name? It's like Silpnir. It's got 6 legs, the horse. It's cool.
Oh, okay.
Because remember it was in Thor 1 and that's it? Like, do you remember that? It has like 6 legs. It's really neat, but...
Sleipnir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Laura and Sweeney got onto the train, and Laura killed a bunch of people. So
yeah, Matt Sweeney did pretty good too. They were killing people left and right.
So that was episode 2. That was a little bit of a long episode, but we also had a couple issues. So
yeah,
hopefully they even out. And I guess we'll check back in with you next week.
All right, sounds good.
Or in a minute.
Or in 1 minute.
3 seconds. So bye.
Bye.
Okay, so this is season 2, episode 3 of American Gods, titled, what was it, Munin? Muninn?
Yeah, it's one of his crows.
One of the what?
One of Odin's crows.
Oh, I feel like I should know that. I was just going to say before we get started that I am on a brand new medication that is kind of giving me a little bit of a what for. It's a...
I feel like you should have said that in Jonathan Van Ness's voice. She's given me a little what for.
It's definitely affecting my mood and everything, so I feel very strange. I feel just a little bit high, and my thoughts are a little bit kind of like, ooh. So I am apologizing in advance if I'm spacey or this is a little bit odd.
We will persevere.
Hopefully. We'll see how this goes. So... I am still having issues.
All right, you get one more episode.
I know I do. I guess you're not.
No, I'm not. Here is the thing. I understand what you're saying. The coloration is different. The film stock, whatever they're doing, it looks different. They're not treating it the same way. I understand. But I 100% disagree with you about the writing. I don't think it's suffered as much as you think it has. But I also, in regards to the way it looks visually, I see it, but it doesn't bother me because I want to see the story happen regardless.
Well, and I am actually trying. Like I'm doing that thing kind of like I did with Alita, where I'm just like, okay, just like chill, just get over it. And I'm not failing as colossally, but it's like, I do think the writing is not what it was. In particular, this episode, I was taking such issue with Laura Moon. She was being so deliberately obtuse. And I mean, I guess I said that for the first 2 episodes, but it was like,
well, yeah, and I do agree with you about Laura. I don't know why, and I'm not sure if they have lost Laura's character. Like, I don't know if Bryan Fuller had a much better, like, course for her to go on or whatever, but she's a lot harsher.
She's like a 90s sarcastic girl, and where there were shades of that.
With the dress and boots to match.
And it just, like, the way she was just quipping at Wednesday, it was very Daria in a way that I was like, and I mean, that wasn't Daria shade, it wasn't meant to be, but she just sort of, like, she fucked off without Mad Sweeney to go with Wednesday, and then as soon as she got somewhere with Wednesday, she was so put out and bothered by Wednesday, and it was like, you're the one that chose to do this. Sweeney warned you, like...
Yeah. 100%. I definitely agree with all of that. My biggest complaint about this season so far is Laura's character. And I don't think that Emily Browning is doing anything wrong. I think...
No, I don't think she's doing... Yeah.
I think they are making her do... Yeah, that I would say is my biggest complaint. But for the rest of it, I'm mostly fine.
There was also... I meant to lead with this, but there was a gaffe in the beginning of this episode that I just was like... It was glaring to me.
What happened?
Like a gaffe, like a bloop, like not a blooper, but it was when, and I can never remember his name. Not Anubis, the other one. Ibis was sewing her arm on, and the like rubber of the prop arm was exposed in such a way it was like,
I did not notice that at all.
Oh my god, it literally was like screaming to me. And I was just like, it's easily fixable too. You can easily like blur or obscure it. And I'm just like, that would have never happened. And so, anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like, I can't be mad at the show because Bryan Fuller fucked off. Like...
Well, we're 3 episodes in and you and I still are not agreeing with what is happening here because I don't think he fucked off. I think the show wasn't working with him.
I still think that there has to be a way to compromise, and I think at the first sign of pushback, he is the type of person to be like, well, forget it, I'm leaving, and I'm taking my toys with me.
He knows what he can do. I mean, we're not dealing with like a Terry Gilliam-esque madman that balloons out of control. He's like, here's what I need, here's what I can do. If you can't give me this, then I'm not going to do it. Like, he knows what he can and cannot deliver, and I admire that, but...
I admire it to a point, but it's like, I can't be mad at the show for doing what they can after he left.
Yeah, but I feel like they're not. I feel like they're saving money now instead. And that's, I mean, I promise this wasn't going to be the same conversation over and over again. And you're right. I have one more episode that I've given myself to have this conversation, but it's just like, I feel like they are choosing. If the viewers aren't there, then the money's not there, and if the money's not there, it's not there. So if that's the reality, that's the reality. But I'm saying I don't quite believe that. I think an accountant come in. I think somebody came in and were like, you can do this for cheaper, and that's what we're gonna do. And I think the show is suffering because of that.
I don't disagree. You know, I've said it definitely does look different. And in a way that is not as exciting as season 1 was, because it was something we'd never seen before.
Well, and I'm finding even the story to be a little bit dull. However, you have warned me that the middle of the book slows down a lot.
It does. And I will also say again that this is slowing down in a different way, but everybody is still kind of taking stock. And I guess if that's what you mean by the writing, because it feels like a lot of stuff is getting drawn out in a way that it doesn't really need to be. I agree with that.
I mean, it's not clever or sharp the way that it was. It was very rapid fire in season 1 in a way that this just feels like the B string came in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Bryan Fuller took the writers too.
There were 2 or 3 bits in this episode that I did laugh at, because one of the ones is when Wednesday said, "It's my hand up your skirt, sweetheart." Mm-hmm. That one was good, and I did like new media. Well, we didn't really see enough of her to have an actual opinion, but I liked her scene with Argos.
Yeah. Well, I liked her. Yeah, I liked her a lot too. And I really do like the play between her and Technical Boy, where like he thinks that now that she's new, he can push her around, and she's still the same inside. And she's like, oh, no, I'm still in charge. And she sort of went off on her own.
I also liked that he apparently has more dimension than we ever thought, because he allowed Laura to follow through with that.
Yeah. And I think Bruce Langley is doing good. Mm-hmm. He's gonna get everything he can out of this role.
Yeah. So that was interesting to me. And I did a pretty rapid 180 with Sam Blackcrow. I hated her the second she walked on screen, because I thought this story was going in a particular direction, and it didn't go that way.
It's not, and she's so great.
I did like her by the time we got to it.
I that's the thing for me too about having read the books. It's like I like some of these characters blindly because I know what they do and what they are, and I'm just like I love her so much. She's so great.
Well, I mean, all I know is that she picked up Shadow, and that she's a two-spirit. Mm-hmm. So, aka bi.
Yeah, well, it's not really bi. It's closer to trans, I think. Mm-mm. She has a male and a female spirit in her.
Is that how it is in the story, or that?
That's what two-spirit means.
No, it's gay. It's their version of LGBT.
Oh, I thought it was more intense than that.
I think for some people it is. Yeah. Oh. Look, as the resident two-spirit here.
Okay, all right. I don't want to. I want to appropriate.
No, I mean, at least now I feel like an ass. At least it's my understanding that that was their version of LGBT. It was like a blanket term that meant that.
Cool. Okay.
Because male and female, and yeah, so. She said she was half Cherokee. That felt noteworthy.
Yeah, I did. I guess Will can cut this if it's inappropriate, but she was like, my dad was full-blood Cherokee, and he called me a half-breed, and I was like, maybe he shouldn't have been fucking white ladies if that was going to be his attitude?
Oh, yeah.
Is that not like...
That's a hot take.
Well, just like, what do you think is going to happen if a kid comes from that? I don't know. That was my 2 cents. It felt like very short-sighted on her father's part to be having affairs with white ladies and then having the gall to say something like that to your child.
Aside from that, and this isn't really based on the plot, other than I just find it interesting, but did you know that the Library of Alexandria wasn't the destruction that we think it was? There was already very sophisticated backup.
Was there?
Yeah, backup systems in place at that point. And actually, honestly, we lost significantly more knowledge by the gradual deterioration of the libraries of public.
Like in present day, modern day.
Well, throughout several hundred years, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The ancient world was far more.
They cared more about the upkeep.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was interesting when they were talking about it.
That is interesting because I see that infographic on Tumblr all the time.
I mean, it's one of those like yes and no things, but there was gobs of information, you know.
Sure.
And I actually did see that there were like 2 separate backup systems within Egypt in different parts for the Alexandria or Library of Alexandria. What was the plot with Iktomi? I didn't get that.
Which one was Iktomi?
The Jinn and Salim went to the strip club where there was a guy that was selling weed, and I didn't understand that scene.
I'm not 100% sure what was going on with that either. I think that's something that's going to keep playing, but like they needed that little plant for whatever. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think I just remember what it's for.
Because they also tried...
I mean, it's for Wednesday. Like the Jinn was getting that for Wednesday.
Because they also tried to pawn it off on us as a Somewhere in America story, and I was like, no, that's not Somewhere in America.
Not quite, no. I think the only other thing I was going to say is poor Mad Sweeney. He literally can't catch a break.
Well, yeah, I mean, he doesn't have his coin.
I know. It's just so funny how he continually, the luck that he doesn't have anymore. It's hilarious. Pablo Schreiber plays his like simmering rage so well, and then when he got on that bus full of Christian rockers, I almost died. Hilarious. It was so funny.
I'm curious to see where we're going with them, if they're going to be in the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, if they take him to New Orleans, maybe he'll just, like, get out of the bus. But that image of him just being like, fucking of course. This is exactly what would happen. It was so amazing.
So I'm trying to think if there's really anything else that we need to touch on.
As much as a problem as I'm having with Laura, I did like the interplay with her and Wednesday, especially at the end when she does stab Argus in the neck to get the, like, recharge or whatever, because Wednesday's still being very deliberate, where he was like, well, now he'll never want you. Now Shadow will never want you. You've killed a god if for a selfish reason. And so it's like, I get it. I like where that kind of stuff is going, but as much as I loved how they were expanding Laura in season 1 because it was so different from the book, I'm now,
well, even that line of dialogue where it was like he like read her like a receipt. He read her like deepest secret, and she's like, "That doesn't mean you know me." And I'm like, "Yeah, it does." Yeah, and also, does. Why are you being dumb? Like, why?
Yeah. they have turned her from such an interesting character into just kind of like a dum-dum, and it is very frustrating, that part specifically. But I am mostly enjoying the rest of it, and that definitely could be because I read the book and I just want to watch it happen. But it's still working for me.
Well, you're also trying to stick it to Bryan Fuller.
I'm not trying to stick it to Bryan Fuller. I just honestly, it's very that whole behind the scenes stuff is very frustrating for me, because on the one hand, I think that Stars could have worked with him for sure, but I also think he could have made a couple concessions, and I feel like he made 0 concessions. That's what it looks like from the outside, from somebody who has no knowledge of what actually happened. But it's not that I want to stick it to him. It's just I've also managed to get myself into a place where I'm already thinking about season 1 as its own independent thing, because season 2 has a different showrunner, and it's already been picked up for season 3 with a different showrunner. And so I'm just I've already in my mind made them all 3 into distinct things that are going to look and feel different. And that's how I'm managing it. So,
was there any significance to Laura's middle name? It was McCabe. Wednesday knew it.
That's her maiden name.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I guess that was it for episode 3.
Yeah. So, I was gonna do the whole sign-off spiel, and I was like, I don't need to do that. So yeah,
we'll see you next week to have half of the same conversation.
That's right. It'll be very exciting, and then the week after that, it'll hopefully be all
gone.
Different.
It'll be completely gone, and the episode will be 4 minutes long.
Oh goodness.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Episode 4, which was strangely titled The Greatest Story Ever Told. And
yeah, I thought that was weird too.
That's an allusion to Jesus, which, I mean, there was allusions to Jesus in this. Two ways, to be honest. Okay. I liked this episode.
Oh, good. Okay. I wondered, was it because of the Bilquist stuff?
All of it. I am still, because I have to take advantage of my last opportunity to bitch and moan, I am still having an extremely difficult time with the fact that this is not the show that it was in season 1, because this episode, in my opinion, was almost suffocated by subtext. I watched it the first time, enjoyed it, and then sort of watched it again the second time when I was trying to figure out. I can follow shows in that like I can follow like the line of events. I'm like, well, that was good, and therefore this is going to happen, and that was bad, so now this is going to happen. Like, but when I try to actually like absorb a show, sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, what? And so I watched it a second time, and when I was trying to organize my notes and be like, oh god, I don't know where to start. The scene with Ibis and Bilquis and Nancy, the scene with the 3 of them was so stunning. And I was getting all of the passion and the emotion from it, but when I actually tried to sit down and figure out what it was they were saying, that's when I was like, okay. And that's where I feel like some of maybe the visual flares, the visual flourishes of season 1 might have helped illustrate what exactly was being communicated. Because I just felt like there was a great deal of subtext in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I think you're right. I did really like that scene, though Mr. Nancy's proselytizing felt a lot like his speech in the slave ship in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I didn't really need a retread of this. I like the message it's giving, and I like how fired up he is about going to war, but it was like, it kind of stopped the episode dead for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
A little. His speech, I liked the scene as a whole, because Mr. Ibis was basically like, I'm choosing peace. I'm just going to stay here.
Well, because of his position, because apparently he is Toth, which that was news to me.
They've called him that like once or twice before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Toth is tasked with recording everything. So Toth kind of has to be neutral.
Yeah, because he's the reason for the S.E. McGowan story, because the other Mr. Jackal is basically like, I can see you have a story to write. Like, go do it and I'll take care of this body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, that scene was the 3 African gods were sort of taking advantage of the fact that they were there, they were together, and they were discussing their role in the grander scheme of things as African gods. Right. And especially as African gods in America, because Ibis even says something about how then they started calling me, he says about how he was normal, and then suddenly he was colored, and then suddenly he was African American, and he was like, I don't feel African, which is hilarious because he is black in Cairo, but he's not in Africa.
It's pronounced Cairo.
Oh, I know, but I said it was like the illusions that it's like the Americanness of the American gods in this.
Yeah, it's great.
Is hitting me more in season 2 and this.
Well, and especially of the old gods, because like Technical Boy and Mr. World and Media and blah blah blah, those all feel American, but the old gods, you don't realize that they feel American until they pull like a nuance like that, and then you're like, oh shit, yeah, they're not they're not who they would have been.
And so what precisely did they accomplish? Is it just that they have an alliance? Okay. Is it just that they have kind of an alliance behind the scenes?
Sort of, yes. It's basically Nancy is working for Wednesday, and Mr. Ibis wants to stay out of it completely, and Bilquis is still deciding where she wants to throw her chips.
And apparently, the implication I got by the end, because she had a scene with Ruby, a presumably mortal woman, Ruby Goodchild. It was a little on the nose.
I was gonna say that is a Destiny chock full of Destiny name, if ever I heard.
I want the quote from season 1 where Mr. Wednesday goes, "Well, that is an incredibly improbable name."
Yeah.
But it seems that Bilquis is taking a page out of Jesus's book.
In what way?
The way she was talking about Jesus at the end of the episode, about how he like was not this peaceful. I don't have the word.
Oh, he was a rebel.
Yeah, there you go.
Is what she says. Yeah.
And she was like, and he didn't die for our sins. He died because he pissed off the powers that be. And just the way she was going about it, it seemed like she was maybe going to walk down that path.
Could be. I think down that path leads her to Wednesday, and I think it's sort of that's I think what's interesting about all of the old gods is sort of deciding whether or not it's worth following a trickster god into battle. Which I think is like also dramatically neat.
Also, Anansi is a trickster god too, which is like I said, there was a lot happening, and they did establish that love is a very powerful ally in war. So, we'll see. I'm equal parts, intrigued and frustrated that, we're now halfway into season 2 and I still have no idea what Bilquis's deal is, but
yeah, well, I mean, I think she is just weighing her options. She's trying to figure out can she extricate herself from the new gods in order to join the old gods?
So we're just witnessing her
struggle, I think, yeah. Because she is where she is, and she's as comfortable as she is because of the new gods, but she is like the oldest god, she has a duty to that she needs to like see through also, and I think it's hard for her to decide.
And where some of these gods were sort of born in America, she is definitely one of the ones that migrated. We witnessed the migration. I also always wondered, because as I've mentioned on our coverage, that she is the biblical Queen of Sheba. I always wondered if her biblical presence gives her an angle as well. That she's a pagan and Christian god. I don't know. That may be a level that they're not quite delving into. But so I meant to lead with this, but the opening was really great. We got, in my opinion, it was the closest we've gotten to a Somewhere in America.
I was going to say that reminded me a lot of season 1.
It was. My impression is that it was the birth of Technical Boy.
Yes.
Okay.
You're correct.
I don't know when I fell in love with Technical Boy, but it happened.
Yep. I think it's Bruce Langley. I think he's that good.
Yeah, it was gradual, because I didn't like him in season 1. And then
he's like a sneering, smug, dude who vapes all the time.
Yeah, but he's been doing it for me this season. And am I the only one that was waiting for him to have a thing with the son?
Oh, like a sexy thing?
When he walked in and said, "Hey, friend," I was waiting for them to have like a thing.
Interesting.
And because I feel like that's something that we haven't seen, is that from a lot of mythologies, the gods famously copulated with mortals.
Sure, yeah.
And we're not seeing a lot of that.
That's
and
true.
they had a dynamic that I was sort of like, this feels like, because also those characters were strangely referred to as solely the son and the father, the Asian man and his son. So there was more Jesus allusions that I wasn't entirely sure what they were going for. And it was capitals, the son, capital letters, the father, capital letters. The deal with Technical Boy and media is that new media has sort of rendered him obsolete.
Yeah.
And she knows this.
Correct.
Okay.
She sold him out to Mr. World. To my knowledge, he's dead now.
Which I can't believe, because Bruce Langley is a series regular.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what Mr. World, what's the word he used? Not discontinued, but it was something like that. I discontinued a god today.
It wasn't discontinued. It was like retired.
Yeah,
something like that. Shit. Yeah, I will be sad if I became very invested in this character just to lose them.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm wondering if he can defect, because can he become an old god? I don't know. We'll see. He's locked in a prison somewhere.
He could probably help the old gods, being technology. But basically, I think the gist of that was that media is so tied up in technology now that, like, she has taken over his...
Okay, interesting.
We're like, we only absorb media through more and more technology, and it's like we make better technology so we can absorb more media. So it's like now he's beholden to her in a way that she was beholden to him before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To repeat what you said, Bruce Langley's performance was really good, and I cannot remember if I already said this, but it was also just working for me in a weird way.
No, he's like good looking. I think I've said
the weird before. Cone hairstyle.
Yeah, he's like a good looking dude, and then also I have a weird solidarity because he's got a gap in his teeth too, and I like it. It's cute. It makes him look different from everybody.
Yeah, I really liked it. Shadow banged a cat.
Shadow banged the goddess Bast.
Is it okay? It's Bast.
Yeah.
Who is she? Do we know?
Well, they called her Mr. Ibis's sister. So, but she's an Egyptian goddess.
Yeah, I feel like we'll see her again.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that scene because it's in the book and it's amazing.
Okay, cool.
And I loved it because he's just as weirded out by it in the book, and he like doesn't really. I think he does ask at one point. He's like, "Did I fuck a cat?" But it's because it's like sort of a fever dream for him. Where he, like, the only thing it's just like it happened in the show. He just, like, sees the scratches on himself in the morning and he's like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, so I guess the third kind of real plot we had was Money, as played by William Sanderson. And I was what?
No, I like William Sanderson.
Oh. I was finding it all very confusing. It's one of the ones that I got more from it the second time I watched it. And one of my notes, I literally said, I don't get it. Is Money a new or old god? And then my second note said, oh, is that the point of all this?
Yeah. That's definitely the point of all of it. I loved that, like, Money's minions or whatever were personified by Girl Scouts. That was fucking hilarious.
Because we talk about that's a joke about or it's not a meme, but that's a comment that people make about like what a bad business model the Girl Scouts have.
Well, because they only sell for like 2 months out of the year.
They have such a product, but they, yeah. And it's like, I think that's so funny that, if ever there were a concept, if ever there was a representation of like, oh God, I like don't have the words to explain. I'm still having issues with my like adjusting to my new medication, and it causes my brain to be a little bit foggy, but it's like,
well, I think on the one hand, it's actually an excellent business model because they make enough money to keep going through the
but that's
whole
what
year.
I mean, that they are such gatekeepers,
right?
That it's like they have this product that they know we want, and they choose when we can have it and when we can't.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, the McRib or the Disney Vault, and to have them as minions of money is that where you were going with it? Or did you have another?
It just was, I thought, inspired. I thought it was a wonderful choice.
And then we also got it's a chain of motels. It's like Motel Americana.
Mm-hmm.
I was not realizing that. I was thinking that it was abstract. Like he just kept finding like, oh, Motel Americana. And I was like,
oh, okay.
And no, it's an actual chain he's going to. And Mama G works at all of them.
Uh-huh.
That felt a little weird to me. That felt like a cheat, but I was fine with it.
I'll allow it. Yeah, I mean, it is a cheat to just keep Sakina Jeffrey around, but I like it.
She's funny. I didn't love her joke in like the first or second episode where she was like, I'll join, I'll presume the lopping of heads if I can find someone to cover my shift.
Right.
That hit me weird. But I'm feeling like the more they're leaning into it, the funnier I'm finding it.
Well, I've thought she was great for a while. She was on Timeless, and I liked her a lot on that, too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like her. I just, that first joke, it struck me almost as, like, racist or something.
Oh, okay, I get it.
And then now I'm like, no, as a character trait, I like this. I think that this is funny. And it is, that is also a very American thing and a very immigrant thing that people can come into the country and franchise or franchising and all that. And so, it still got something.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I thought you would like the writing in this one because the writing specifically in the Bilquis and Ibis and Nancy scene, and then Bilquis and Ruby Goodchild, I thought that writing was
very good.
Back to some season 1 top notch. So,
I'm still missing the visual flourishes, but as I said in episode 1, I was like, if I didn't have season 1 and was just watching this show, I would probably love it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's just something that I have to myself get over. And it appears that's a process and going to be a process for me, but it appears that I am on the road to doing that.
Good.
As long as it remains good. And I hate to say that literally one of the first things I said after watching this episode was I was like, well, this episode was great, and also it didn't have Laura or Mad Sweeney.
I was gonna wait to say that till next week to see if next week sucked with Laura and Mad Sweeney in it. But I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I was thinking the exact same thing. I was just gonna wait for confirmation.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
So we'll save that conversation for next week.
Yeah. But overall, the first total thumbs up episode of the season.
This was like a 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm still really enjoying it, though. My last thing I'll say is I am getting tired. I'm getting a little tired of Shadow and Wednesday's situation right now because Shadow
it's redundant.
He's just like with Laura. He won't stop asking fucking questions. And I know he believes in Wednesday, but at the end of season 1, he said he believed in everything, and he's still questioning everything.
Yeah, well, he was under Easter's spell then, and she's not a factor anymore, so.
I guess that's probably part of it, yeah.
I just made that up. I don't know. Because he was gazing dreamily at her. Mm-hmm. Oh, Kristen.
I know.
Come back to us.
That would be so great.
Okay.
All right. We will see you next week. Bye.
To make sure that you're ready, tortilla mouth.
Shut up. I'm starving.
A piece of, just a dry tortilla.
It's good. It's delicious.
Okay.
That doesn't sound good.
I can't even, I don't.
You're just only making noises.
I mean, I don't know where to start. It's not entirely bad. It's more of a, perplexed. I didn't really get it. And I liked some of it, but I don't understand exactly what we're doing with our black gods.
Okay.
And, we open with a very brutal and lengthy lynching.
Yes.
And, I didn't get it. I didn't understand the story. And that was a real person. This was a real story. Certainly the lynching part of it.
Did you look it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was curious. And I feel like I haven't set up the episode at all. And I didn't write down what it was called.
The Ways of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow learns the ways of the dead with the help of Mr. Ibis and Mr. Nancy. In New Orleans, Mad Sweeney introduces Laura to old friends who share their world of voodoo healing. Mr. Wednesday embarks on a road trip with Salim and the Djinn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I just didn't get it. I didn't get the point of the story. I didn't understand why, what they call him, Will. It was like Will Froggy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
James. I didn't understand why he was haunting the black people. And I understand that the show told us why, but I didn't. It's this weird, like, kind of black on black crime thing that I feel like, of all the ways to tackle the race relations in this show, and like something, because I mean, while it's brutal, it's American. I mean, it is as American as apple pie. This is part of our history, and it's something that I feel that is a cancer that is still very deeply rooted into the country, that we never actually went through and dealt with this. There was a woman, I do not remember her name. She was a scholarly type, but she was on The Daily Show probably maybe even 10 years ago. But she was talking about how, like, after Nazi Germany was held accountable, like on a global stage, and they had to, very publicly pay for their crimes. And it's something that America has never done.
When we quit using slavery, other places still were. There was no one to hold us accountable.
Yeah, but we were also, other places were, but we were not the first.
No, of course.
Mexico, England, several other of the world powers, had already long since stopped. But it's just the kind of thing that I was like, I'm really into the explorations of this and I want to do it, but I was very confused as to where they were going with all of this. And I was confused as to what this curse was, and it's in Shadow now?
I will admit that I don't know what is happening with Shadow right now. In the book, Shadow is with Mr. Ibis and Mr. Jackal for like one day. Mm-hmm. And he has sex with Bast and he moves on. And Shadow in the show right now feels in a very weird place because he's not where he is supposed to be, which is in Michigan, with Sam Blackcrow. But I feel like they're still going to put him there eventually, so I have been holding back on saying that. But in keeping him from where he should be, they are inventing things for him to do, and in my opinion, none of it is working, and it's mostly all boring.
Yeah, and there was the obvious parallel between James and whoever that woman was, as played again by Emily Browning. Mm-hmm. And Shadow Moon, where it was like sort of we're dealing with a similar thing. Well, we're not though. I was like, because we have yet another dead white woman in Laura Moon, but Shadow isn't being accused of the murder, right. So I don't understand the illusion. I don't understand. I don't know. I mean, maybe we're going somewhere, but it's like given the insanely powerful black pieces that this show has to use, I felt like this was a strange use of some of them.
I agree with that for sure. It goes back to the thing I said a couple episodes ago where with an 8-episode order, this was episode 5. Mm-hmm. We should have had some action in this episode, and nothing actually happened.
Yeah, I mean, not even
regarding almost anybody.
Yeah, not even the Laura and Sweeney thing actually happened. It was an illusion. And and I mean, I don't know who's listening to this and at what point they're listening to this, but if I have completely, like, profoundly misunderstood something, just please let me know.
Oh, please, absolutely, especially about this episode. We are as two, white people, we are not equipped to understand the nuances of this. If that means something, this Shadow and the froggy guy, if that all means something, absolutely let us know. We will happily learn.
Yeah. But I didn't get it. It wasn't made clear to me as a, I'll go with medium viewer. I'm not a novice, but I'm not an expert, so.
Yeah, I mean, the show didn't make its case to me for how that links together with the greater story of the show itself.
And I mean, at least not yet. I guess it could.
Yeah, but that's, again, the thing. It should have.
Mm-hmm.
If they were trying to link it to, it should have done it in this episode, because we have been wasting time for like 3 weeks now. We've been wasting time with nothing happening, and Shadow's not where he's supposed to be, and Wednesday's not where he's supposed to be, and, we're spending time on stuff that, in the scheme of the book, doesn't matter, and if they are trying to make a different point with the show, then that's fine, but you are wasting time you don't have.
Well, and it's the kind of thing that, I mean, we're episode 5, so I already said I'd stop complaining about the Bryan Fuller problem, but it's like, I feel like the vision is not quite here, and if it is, it's not completely grounded in a way that it was in season 1, where I would be more willing to tolerate some provocative storytelling and cliffhangers and stuff. I mean,
right, and I don't.
The Mexican Jesus scene was incredibly difficult to watch, but I felt the power of it. I understood very clearly what I was seeing.
And it's not that I don't like the messages they're giving. And if I had to guess, I would imagine that Orlando Jones is responsible for some of this, since he is a consulting producer on the season. And I like it. And it's certainly topical, and it's absolutely something that the country needs to discuss. Violence against the Black community, all of that. Absolutely. I love to see that depicted, discussions of that in my media. But it doesn't feel like the story fits.
And
the story.
As we've been saying, I do have a lot of hope hinged completely around the presence of Bilquis, because she is cryptic as ever, but she seems to have a gleam in her eye, where it's like,
oh yeah,
there's a metaphor there for, the oh God, I can't think of the words I want to use, but it's
like the strength of Black women.
Yeah, and how like I would love to pivot the focus there on how, like, the mother, the original, Eve, could somehow salvage the community. Yeah. And I mean, they have made the Good Child family a presence. So I feel like we're going to get something from them. Yeah,
I think Ruby's going to keep popping up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I definitely want to see that. On the better side, I was very much enjoying Salim, and we just call him the Ifrit, right? He doesn't have a name?
Well, we call him the Ifrit or the Jinn.
Yeah. I like how devout Salim is, and it's funny because it's not unlike what I've been complaining about Laura Moon, where I'm like, how can she be this blasé in the presence of real gods?
Yeah, but Salim really explained his position well.
It's working here. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was like, he said, I can believe in these other gods, but they can't give me the relationship that I have with Allah. And that makes sense to me. Like, you can believe in multiple ones, but if you have one that is your God, that's different.
And it was always, in the commandments, it was, you shall have no other God before me. I mean, I remember keying in on that when I was like in 4th grade, and I was like, well, that's an interesting, deliberately phrased commandment.
I suspect a lot of the Bible is deliberately phrased, and people don't take that into account.
And I do find fascinating. I do find the mentions of, we have physically met several versions of Jesus, but I found the mentions of Allah, the Prophet, Yahweh, that they are presences in this world. And I find it kind of interesting that specifically Allah and Yahweh are being monotheistic and having as big of a slice of the pie as Wednesday says. It's like they're above all this. They don't even have to show themselves.
Right.
And I think that's just
Which one is Yahweh?
God, the Christian.
Actual God.
It's I am who am.
Sorry, actual God's not the way I meant to say
that. Our white American understanding of what.
Christian God, I get it. Despite not being religious, my I don't know what you want to, like, ethno-Christianity does pop out
it's built
sometimes.
into the society in a way that
It really is. That
makes this show and the potential of this show so mind-bogglingly fascinating to me. Yeah. And I guess because it's like I have come around on some of it. I am still managing to hold on, and
to the show, you mean?
Yeah. And it's really, I mean, as hard of a time as I'm giving it, for me, it's at like a 6 now. It was like a 10 out of 10, and now it's at a 6, occasionally 7. So it hasn't completely. I mean, we're not talking about
and
2.
I mean, that's not terrible.
No, but it does just. I want to have faith. I want to believe that this is some weird meta experiment where they're really testing
on brand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got it felt significant. I don't know actually if it was with Laura and Mad Sweeney. Well, for starters, I thought it was funny that Mad Sweeney was picking a fight with St. Jude in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I was sort of curious if, that was going to come into play again. I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
Well, I think St. Jude was Irish.
It was.
So it could just be, and he's the patron saint of lost causes.
Yeah. St. Jude goes back to Jude. Jude was one of the apostles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of, you're right, the patron saint of lost causes. So from there they went to Coq Noir, which is
the black. Well, it's like the black rooster, but the black cock, if you want to be vulgar about it, yeah.
Q Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
That's just all I kept thinking the whole time. Where we had the Baron, I wrote his name down, Samdi, and then Brigitte. They were fun.
I liked him more than her.
Yeah, it cannot be said how good looking he was.
Oh, yeah.
It cannot be said enough, rather. I was very into that. He gave Laura a potion. It's missing the final ingredient, which is 2 drops of blood infused with love. I guess she has to get that herself and then add it to the potion and then drink it. I don't know.
Yeah, the problem is that she's going to go following after Shadow again, and at this point, I worry that Laura is falling into the category that Emily Browning didn't want her to fall into.
Exactly. Couldn't be.
Because now she's just a woman chasing after a man. Mm-hmm. And it's like they could have made her so much more interesting. Because if I remember correctly, she gets really tied up with the new gods in the book.
Mm-hmm.
She gets kind of tangled up in there. And I don't know if I want that instead. And again, I still don't think Emily Browning is doing anything wrong, but they're doing her a little dirty now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bumming me out.
And even, I mean, as sort of neat as that sex scene was, it was a little bit in a way that the first season was, I felt like I was seeing truly provocative television, where this was like, it had a length to it, but it was a lot of like blurry above the waist shots. Like all
very
the grinding was, and I mean, we recently just sort of criticized, I'll go with American or Game of Thrones for its sex position. And I think that accurate and artistic portrayals of sexuality is not the same as sex position. And, between Bilquis's opening scene in season 1 and the Salim and the Ifrit scene, I mean, those were sex scenes that were like jaw-dropping.
Like explicit, but also beautifully done. Mm-hmm. And like very lush. And I agree with you. This one was it was like weirdly chaotic, and it was as if there was like 700 filters on it that made it feel like it was happening in smoke, which like if they had leaned into that, it might have been fine, but it was all red and hazy and
it just, I don't know. It felt like Cable in a way that I was afraid we were heading. And we don't even really know if they obviously remember it, but it was like, I mean,
it was like an illusion, but according to the internet, everybody has known that Mad Sweeney's been in love with Laura for, like, since season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I think her reaction is an interesting, like, button on that, because I think her anger and her intense reaction sort of indicate that she's kind of into him, too.
Mm-hmm.
But she's, like, clinging to this, I have to be with Shadow thing. So, but it's also, like,
but the Shadow thing is self-motivated, or it's selfishly motivated, so
I don't have room in this show for an OTP if it's not Salim and the Jinn. So, like, I don't give a shit.
Oh, no, you're completely for Laura and Mad Sweeney. I just want it to be done well.
I'm for Mad Sweeney, but Laura doesn't, at this point, Laura doesn't deserve Mad Sweeney.
Yeah, well, that is extremely true.
So I'm just like, ugh.
But that's part of he wouldn't want her if she did, but...
Well, of course, he is garbage, but yeah.
He's no Timothy Oliphant, but... Also, we missed, I think, 2 weeks ago, the reason why the Jen and Salim went to go see Iktomi was they were trying to get Gungnir, which is Odin's spear, and it needs to be fixed, I guess. So we went to Alvis, the Dwarf King, who was Lee Ardenberg, who played Grumpy on Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
It was just it's very MacGuffin-y. It's very in a Once Upon a... That's actually that was a timely allusion.
Yeah, this season kind of is, isn't it? I didn't even consider that until right now, but it's like, yeah,
I've got
I
the
agree.
who's it, who's got the what's it, and
everybody wants the box.
Yeah. And then we did have Yggdrasil came into the picture, which is the world tree. I guess that's whatever the sprout that Iktomi gave them. It's huge. I mean, it is the universe in Norse mythology. So, I mean, I don't know what direction we're heading there. I remember the tree in season 1. I don't know if that's supposed to be it. Oh, okay. I just put that together, but I have
a lot of imagery.
Yeah, I have a spotty understanding of so much mythology that sometimes it comes and goes, but yeah, so interesting. Okay, we still have that buffalo, which, I mean, again, is very blatant Native American imagery. But Memento Mori, all men must die. Penny Dreadful taught me anything.
I learned that from The Punisher.
Oh. I mean, I don't know how important any of the stuff is, but I was just trying to write down anything that felt like a name. But Hilda Civi it was Freya's battle boar and,
cool.
and sometimes lover.
Sure.
And that's the motorcycle that the Ifrit is riding now. We did find out that he, like, in genie style, belongs to Wednesday. Like, he has the amulet, so he has to do Wednesday's bidding. Yeah. And I mean, we have known that Mad Sweeney was working for Wednesday, but we found...
But now, we do know why now he, like, owes a debt.
I mean, we don't know what the debt is, but...
No, but we know for sure that he does.
It's not a lost cause, speaking of St. Jude, but... Because, I mean, I want to see next week. I cheated a little bit, so I do know that is Thor.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I weirdly thought it was Hercules in all of the previews. It's Derek Theller is the actor. And I just assumed he was playing Hercules. It looks more like what I would imagine Hercules to look like than Thor.
Oh, interesting.
Because I guess when I saw that he was playing Thor, I wasn't like searching because I didn't want spoilers, but I saw that Thor was mentioned in the book. But it appears we're going to see him because he's been cast. So
yeah, neat. I'm excited for that. I would say for me, the Laura and Mad Sweeney was like the worst part of the episode.
Was it really?
Yeah, I think it's Salim.
I was expecting you to be like over the moon, but
well, I would have liked it if it had actually happened or if it actually meant anything. But I think it was my least favorite. I mean, I liked a lot of the individual pieces, but the conclusion was not for me. And then I think the Mr. Ibis stuff in the middle, and then Salim and the Jinn was my favorite. No new gods to speak of this week.
No. So okay. Bye.
All right. Well, we'll see you later. Bye.
What did you think?
I mean, it was fine. I am not having the same problems that you're having with this season, but I don't know why they're taking so much time for certain things. It feels like a season full of side quests, which is fine, but everything is still so mysterious, and I don't know where we're going. Like, it's not clear even remotely where we're going. And so it's like, I don't like these mysterious side quests that seem to be accomplishing nothing, that just seem to be wasting time. We only have 2 episodes left, and nothing has happened.
Yeah, when you said it's like a season full of side quests, I started to be like, that worked when you're, season 3 of Lost. And then I immediately was like, well, did it? Because but Lost it's like, famously went off the rails this way.
Sure, but it's like when you're working with a network show, Lost had, 22 episodes, and then it narrowed down to like 18 and then 10 and blah, 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 whatever. But it had more time to work with. This show doesn't have more time. I mean, I know it got picked up for a season 3, but it doesn't have the time to be doing these things.
Well, and I haven't followed the ratings, so I don't know if that's premature or not, but I'm having a hard time believing that it's getting more popular. My fundamental issue is that I actually just don't care. And that's a death you can't come back from.
Yeah. To quote the episode. Yeah, I don't know. It's not, I guess I'm still having enough of a good time that I like watching these people do stuff, but like instead of having this like, first of all, I have to say it, I understand that we have real Nazis in the world again. It is a travesty. It's the worst thing I can imagine. It makes me sick to my stomach and my heart and my brain.
It's also very chic, like
at all turns, it makes me sick through my whole body. I hate it. I think it's the worst thing I can think of. That being said, TV people seem to have this fucking crazy hard-on right now for putting Nazis in all their goddamn TV shows, and I don't want to see it. Like, I'm just so tired of it. I have had Nazis in, like, 90% of the shows I'm watching.
I also don't want to see it if you're not going to explore it. If you've got nothing to say, then why? I don't care.
Exactly.
And they went nowhere with the Nazi plotline. Because here's the thing. A show called American Gods about what it sounds like it's about, you're gonna run into World War II.
Of course.
But say something. Give us a reason. And it's like, I don't know how I just watched an episode about Thor. It was cute that they insisted on calling him Donar. I don't understand, because even Shadow had to be like, okay, so Thor with quotation fingers. It's like, it's a Germanic pronunciation of the god, and I understand that here's the problem. Okay, this is such a precarious world that we're dealing with, this reality, that if you aren't a complete master at walking this tightrope, the show will fall apart.
Yeah.
And because what does it matter if Donar died? I mean, the Thor should be, because it's just like Shadow said, Thor should be more popular than he's been in centuries.
Right.
And this is just a side note, but it's like, or even fucking, let's just talk about her. Let's talk about Columbia. Are we going to see her again? Like, what is really the point of like introducing us to this character for this all?
Well, yeah.
And this is just a little funny side note, but I was like, who the fuck is Columbia? And then I Googled her and I was like, oh, she's Columbia. I was like, okay, yeah. There was a disconnect in my brain and I was like, oh, she's the goddess Columbia, which also I was like, Columbia Pictures is so massive. Yeah. And especially in the 30s, I was like, wouldn't she be just beaming? Like,
well, that's part of the issue too. When even leaving aside the Nazis, I don't understand why 60% of this episode was set in a past, meeting and getting to know characters, at least one character who we are never going to see again.
Mm-hmm.
Thor killed himself. We're never going to see Thor again.
And that's in the book.
That was such a waste.
It's just sort of stated. And this is the kind of exploration that we were enjoying so much in season 1. But there's just something. I mean, it was neat seeing Ian McShane step off the curb and the sky got dark again like it did in the Chicago episode.
Well, even the vaudeville stuff was cool, but at the vaudeville burlesque stuff, but that's my issue. It's like, I could envision where we were going to leave off in season 1. I could see that we were building to something. I could see that it was going to be like a big throwdown. I can't envision what we're building to here. And look, I'm going off on a little bit of a different thing, but I still love Orlando Jones. I've loved Orlando Jones forever, but like, I am so tired of hearing Mr. Nancy proselytize every single episode. I'm just like, yeah, Orlando Jones is good at delivering a monologue. Do something new. I'm not even listening to what he's saying anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all the same. There's such a waste of so much potential. And so I know I said I'm still enjoying it, and I am, but it is getting very frustrating to me.
Honestly, I think I'm fully in completionist territory right now.
You're just finishing it because we have to.
Well, and it's like I don't know how I bitter ended Once Upon a Time, so I will hold on to my fantasy shows.
Sure.
And thin. So, but it's just sort of like I'm at a place where Sunday night I'm like, oh God, I have to watch this. Mm-hmm. And, that's not a place I get to with many shows. And, I promised that I'd stop talking about this. And I actually, believe it or not, had a different plan for how our coverage of this episode was going to go, because I figured we would talk more about the specific stuff. And
well, you shouldn't have made me start.
Well, I didn't know where to start. And then also, I mean, it is validating for me to know you feel this way too, because that was our big question going in.
Yeah.
And we don't enjoy shitting on things, and certainly not things that we at one point loved and that people are spending hard work doing, good work, hard work working on. We don't like to come in and tear it apart. But
yeah, I'd like to call out all the actors who are still giving it their absolute all.
I'm shocked that the show touched on so many things that I think would be fascinating. The death of the mall. Like, that's something that actually, to be perfectly honest, fills me with a deep sense of melancholy. Like, it makes me sad in my everyday life. I was raised in malls. Like, and I understand the natural order of things. I understand this is something that happens and industries die if they can't, survive. But it's like, I mean, you had Thor, Columbia, Nazis, dwarves, the death of the American mall, slavery. We had so many Lou Reed things in this episode, and yet I was just sort of like glassy-eyed the whole time. Like,
well, and I was going to say also, like the sins of the father and in the son, and like, father-son relationships. There's a little bit of Cat Stevens in there too.
I'm starting to think that Mr. Wednesday is a 2-bit con man in a cheap suit. Because he's going to do this to Shadow, and I guess that's the point of this episode, was it was supposed to be like Shadow is now a son-type figure to him, but it's like, this is stuff that we got from the first 5 minutes of Ian McShane's performance in season 1. Like, it went without saying.
Yeah, they really are putting buttons on things that we already... they're like putting unnecessary buttons on stuff we already know. We didn't need the button... It was done. We knew that.
Also had to stifle laughter when Ian McShane yelled, "No!" like Darth Vader style in the street. I was like, oh my God. And, I guess Derek Theller was fine as Thor. I actually found him to be kind of lackluster. I thought, and I don't know if it's his ability or the writing or whatever, but it's like, that is such a big card to pull out and to just have it be meh. And I mean, we have the embarrassment of riches that is Chris Hemsworth. So,
I mean, I don't think physically Derek Theller was doing anything wrong.
No,
I just think
he was just dull.
Yeah, it wasn't a well-written role for him, because I will say I have caught a handful of episodes of Baby Daddy, and he is actually a kind of captivating comedic presence. Yeah. I don't know how he does with drama, but I was not interested or excited about any of that.
How was he not able to thrive off of what Laura Bell Bundy was serving? She was doing more lifting in this episode than he did in his routine. She was to the nines, and whether you liked it or not is up to you. But
and I hope she comes back.
Well, and also,
she's got to still be around somewhere.
They were so easily duped by Wednesday. It was just
after having seemingly been with him for years and years and years. So yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Donar is I'll use the term badass for committing suicide with a shotgun blast to the chest. Jesus Christ. I was
pretty intense.
And I mean, I guess I'll give them props for at least attempting to keep the somewhere in America, but we are on a budget at this point, just full-fledged.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, I do like a couple of the flourishes that they're doing. I don't understand why, since he's supposed to be the more, like, advanced one, but Mr. World, his, like, headquarters is in a Cold War bunker.
What the fuck? I'm so sorry. What is our time? I didn't set a timer. What is our...
We've got a little bit left. We're good.
Okay, because now that we've gotten here, there are things I want to talk about. What the fuck is Mr. World doing? What plan? Where are we going? Like that. And furthermore, what is he saying? I can't even hear him.
I have no idea.
And are we talking about new media? Are we talking about literal bandwidth, or is this a metaphor? Like what are we working towards? And also, I'm really mad about the Lou Reed jacket thing. I don't know why I'm shocked by this revelation that Wednesday is a con man, but it was like it annoyed me that I was like, this poor dude is working at a, vintage shop in a dying mall. It annoyed me. And then what was Technical Boy? What did he do?
I saw some stuff on the internet where it was like a different iteration of him. He was like Telephone Boy. I saw multiple people call him Telephone Boy on Twitter.
Okay.
So I think it was just like a previous version of him. Then that was what I was going to say, is I was glad to see Bruce Langley again, but also kind of for what?
I wish his whole thing, I of all the things that we're getting buttons on, but
yeah.
But what did he do? He propositioned, I watched it twice, he propositioned Columbia to do what? He made her an offer, but there was no offer in the offer.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what did he actually, I didn't, there's a lot of people standing in rooms saying things that I feel like Lisa Simpson, where I'm like, I know those words, but that makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it's like there is this, it has turned into just people in different pairings in different rooms saying words to each other that have no consequence. That would be
most good, Dooman.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I guess the spears put back together, and I guess there was the one that broke it with Mjolnir, or whatever the German name for Mjolnir is.
Mew Mew.
I mean, I want to like new media, but they're giving us, I mean, it's a cool effect, I guess, but...
Yeah, and I like her a lot. I like the actress a lot, but it's like they're not... they're not doing what they should.
Bratty female characters are a tough sell, and it's like, I really want a reason to root for her.
Yeah.
And so far, they're just giving us... Yeah,
so far she got...
Like, unearned confidence is really all they're giving us.
Yeah, well, she also got Technical Boy retired, and, it's just kind of like, who do you think you are? You're not Gillian Anderson. Get out.
Let me ask you, the Nazi stuff. If we're going somewhere, like, do you... This was a weird flashback episode to explain to us that Wednesday's a bad dad, so it's like...
I don't want more Nazi stuff, if that's what you're asking. I don't want them to keep exploring it.
Well, they're gonna be new gods now. They're gonna be powerful again, so...
Yeah, I mean,
if you're gonna do it, then fucking do it, but...
I guess.
You're like, no!
I'm telling you, it's like 90% of my TV shows.
You were over this 3 years ago with Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
You were like... I was like, remember when the werewolf Nazis was ridiculous? Okay.
Well, we'll check back next week for episode 7. Episode 7 of 8. We have accomplished nothing. We'll see.
Bye.
Bye.
I am starting to think that Wednesday might be a scoundrel and a bit of a crook.
You don't say.
I think there's some subtle signs.
He's kind of garbage. I mean, he's great and we like him because he's Ian McShane, but he is also a trickster god.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. I have things to say. Do you want to start? What did you think?
I liked it. I will admit I saw the end coming because I saw a couple people being a little too effusive to Pablo Schreiber on Twitter. And so I was like, oh, all right, fine. And so I'm bummed, but I did like it. I thought it was one of the more stylish episodes of the season, and I think it had some of the better writing this year so far.
We can cut right there that it appears that they have killed off Mad Sweeney. Nothing means anything anymore, so from where I'm at now, I don't know if I'm just jaded or if I'm in denial or whatnot, because it feels like, especially a show like this, it feels like things like that aren't necessarily set in stone.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the show without him, though he hasn't been utilized all that well this season.
Yeah, but still,
until this episode.
Right. I also can't imagine the show without him, and it feels like since the beginning they've set him up for this long story where he's like pivotal to the whole thing. And I mean, if his most pivotal thing was telling Shadow that Wednesday's up to no good, I mean, that's like the 6th time he's done it. So I like my point basically is, what difference does Shadow have to believe him this time? And so, and then in that case, why would you make him go out like that? So,
well, it was a pretty spectacular. It was a season for season 2. It was a pretty spectacular exit, and it was a really great episode. I think it's probably the closest we've had to season 1 this season. I certainly
agree.
Put it with but even the visuals were still, I'll say adequate, but the gravitas felt way more like season 1.
Yeah,
because from a style standpoint, I think the only thing that really sort of held up, is that a term?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The only thing that really sort of held up to season 1 was House on the Rock, that like segment, that 30-minute segment in the middle.
Well, I do think the like battle parts of this episode lived up, but that was only like 5 minutes.
The director was a man by the name of Paco Cabezas. Cabezas.
Yeah.
I just thought he was good. I thought he directed a couple of good episodes of Penny Dreadful, and
neat.
I didn't see who the writer was, but yeah. So to dive, it just, like I said, it had the gravitas. I didn't fully understand what it was saying, but it was doing it in such a way that I wasn't sure if I was really meant to understand exactly what it was saying.
Right.
I guess it was mostly sort of a commentary on how these stories and these figures in mythology, how their stories change and are changed. We mentioned several times, especially, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about Hellboy, and I was like, depending on which version of the Arthurian legend, there's different characters, there's different events, and so I found that really, really intriguing, and especially pairing the 2 times that we paired Shadow or Sweeney with Bilquis and then with Salim.
Yeah.
And even, but to a lesser extent, Ibis. But it's like, we're 7 episodes into the 2nd season. There's 1 more to go. And so far, Bilquis is one of the few characters who still is magnetic and has mystery to her.
I want to say I think it's because Yetiri has, a grasp on her character.
And we also don't get too much of her. We don't get to know too much about her. And I kind of predicted, it's not really a prediction, but I have been wondering if her role as a biblical figure was going to play a part, because she is
not playing a part.
Well, it is. She's the biblical Queen of Sheba. And that's one of the best ways to adapt in this part of the country in this day and age, is to represent yourself as a religious figure. And that's what she's doing. She's playing the priestess. And that stuff that she was reading, to my knowledge, is from the Bible. It was the Song of Solomon. It's a fascinating series of very sensual poems that for a long time they tried to be like, it's a metaphor for Christ's love for the church, or God's love for mankind. And the more commonly accepted interpretation is that it was a series of love poems that was collected and compiled and put into the Bible, because they were good. They were from the time. And, it's credited to the love affair of, I might be wrong. It's either Solomon and Sheba or David and...
Well, if I learned anything from the librarian movies, it's Solomon and Sheba.
Yeah, okay. There's a similarly erotically charged, Bible passage about David, and I am blanking on her name at the moment, but he had a love affair. It's what the NBC show Kings was about.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because David is part of Solomon. Yeah, they're the same story. Okay, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. I had 4 years of Catholic school. But that was really, really great, her scene. And I especially loved the way that she was having the conversation with Sweeney, and when her voice was coming in and out of the story, and then he, woke up like he had dreamed it.
Yeah.
And a similar thing happened with Salim, where when he was telling Salim a different version of the story, and then she interrupted Salim, and he woke up again, and he was alone again.
Yeah.
And I have to also say, I don't know what it was about it, but there was something about the usage of the specific word boobies. That, because Sheba, or Bilquis said tits later, but he kept saying boobies in this way that was just, it so completely captured Mad Sweeney.
Yeah. Well, it was also almost like boobies. Which is a sort of older sounding way to say it. It slayed Will too.
I mean, obviously his 3 stories were each drastically different, but I mean, I just assume they were a metaphor for the Christians coming in and taking over.
Yeah, 100%.
And sort of changing. I mean,
that was not a metaphor. That was straight up said in the show. There was no subtext, only text.
But he basically straight up, said that they were these warrior god kings and stuff, and then the Christians came and turned them into fairies. And I like the fae folk. I like that angle of the show. I could use a little bit more of it. There was even a Sleeping Beauty reference in this.
Yeah, there was. I caught that too.
Mm-hmm, where he said, "Here, I feel like the 13th fucking fairy." Mm-hmm. And I love how he antagonizes Salim. I think it is so funny. And because he called him Pillow Biter at first. And then...
Is that a thing? I've never heard that one before.
I mean, yeah. It's like a bottom.
Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That makes perfect sense.
What did he say earlier? He said that when he was talking to Ibis, and Ibis asked him a question, he was like, I don't know, the faggot and the man-eater already drained me of my... And we did get banshees. They were decent. They were decent. I wanted a more mythological costume, especially in the scene where it was the flashback.
Yeah.
And they were still in the Sunday morning dresses. But it was better than no banshees.
Yeah, true.
And what was it he said at the end when he sat down at the table? He because it's on one hand he antagonizes Salim, but on the other I think because of how he was turned into a fairy himself, he feels like a kinship because he's referred to them as fairies, affectionately.
Yeah.
He'll be like, oh, do they have a problem with us fairies? I don't know. I really like it.
Well, he put Salim in the same category as himself.
And Salim is just mortal, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, it was a play on words, but I get what you mean as he was doing it in kind of a kinship way, where it was we're the odd ones out. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, well, yeah, I can't say what I wanted to say.
Why?
Because it's a spoiler.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, then don't say it, but... No, and I mean, because of who Mad Sweeney is, I don't mind the slur coming out of him. I don't, it's one of those things where it's I don't know how to give people rules on who can say what.
But Mad Sweeney can say faggot.
Yeah.
Fair, I agree. I'll allow it.
Yggdrasil is full grown.
Yeah.
It appears. And then Wednesday repaired Gungnir with a fake branch from Yggdrasil.
You gotta let it go a little.
How hard would a real branch have been? Honestly.
Well, if you're thinking about cutting off a branch from a tree every time you have to do a take, hard.
Yeah, get 10. You're good to go.
No.
It's so easy. And the tree itself looked fine, but the close-up shot, then they need to start manufacturing HD grade branches
and flowers.
Yes. I mean, because the flowers in her hair, whatever his queen's, that was disappointing to me. I mean, it was whatever, but when he had that line with Laura earlier about betrayal being the worst sin a person could do.
Yeah, that really didn't pay off. Because she didn't betray him.
Yeah, and I was going to complain because she had fake flowers in her hair and her dress had a big old zipper down the back of it. Because, look, because I was expecting for you to be like, oh, come on. But I was going to be like, there aren't zippers on Outlander.
No, there are some zippers, but they are period appropriate because some of it takes place in the 1960s.
Mm-hmm. I guess there was a scene with Mama G and Laura Moon, and I didn't really get that. Basically, Laura asked Mama G for help with the 2 drops of blood filled with love, and Mama G sort of was like, you might think of me as Kelly Ma the nurturer, but I'm actually Smashna Kelly the destroyer. We got to see her kind of again, and then Mama G was like, she pulled the Glinda and was like, it's inside of you.
It's been inside of you all along.
And I, because Laura was like, what, like love? And then so I don't know if that was the coin. I don't know. I didn't get it. I still think Laura has suffered the most from this.
I agree. I definitely agree with you about that. Laura is not the character I loved so much in season 1.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, there was, we already said there was a confrontation, and it was that Sweeney has decided to... So do you think he rewrote his story?
I was more thinking that it was the different versions of him.
Okay.
The different versions of that have been told of leprechauns and him specifically.
And that's something that we, we've talked about with this show, and it's something that, I mean, this show sort of struggles with, is because in actuality, this show can unravel at the slightest. I mean, if you pick even just a little bit, it can fall to pieces. And it's something that, I allowed in season 1. In season 2, it's been a little bit more tedious. It's been harder for me to not start picking at these strings and stuff. But So what was his specific reason for trying to go after Wednesday?
He just wanted to be done. He has technically fulfilled his promise. He killed Laura. It's not his fault she's alive again, kind of thing. And so he's like, I want to be done, and you owe me a battle. And so he wants to fight Wednesday, but Wednesday won't do it. And actually, the potato salad dig was hilarious. I didn't catch it when he just kept eating the potato salad, but then Mad Sweeney brought it up, and I was like, he was just like shoveling potatoes in his mouth in front of an Irish leprechaun. That is kind of a dick move.
Well, and then he also, because they specifically said it was the food the banshees left, and he said the thing that I always say, and it's like, you never eat fairy food, like, ever. And that's what voided the contract. That's what it was. Is once he had eaten the fairy food, it had voided. Then Wednesday owed the fairy folk, and so that's how Wednesday was able to get out. That's what it was. I knew it was something. And so Sweeney attacked him, and Shadow fought back, and it was pretty well done. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was well done. Again, this is where I wish I had been able to reread the book in between, because I don't remember I know for a fact that Mad Sweeney is not as big of a character, but I don't remember if he dies or not. I'm a little bit between a rock and a hard place, because it was a really great episode and it was a really great scene. So in one capacity, I don't want it to just be magically like the second version of Mad Sweeney shows up to report for business, next week. But I also don't want a Mad Sweeney-less show. So, agreed, yeah.
I don't know. I am actually, for the first time, I will honestly say this season, I kind of can't wait for the next episode to see what all.
The final episode?
Yeah. Because we've been watching it on the Stars app, so we're not getting the next week on.
Yeah.
So I don't have a clue what it's going to be like.
Same.
So is Bilquis on their side now, or is she still doing her own?
I think both.
that sounds like Bilquis.
Yeah, I mean, I think still both. I mean, she was there and she was eating with them at this dinner, but I think she's looking out for herself more than anybody else.
I'm definitely going to tune in for the finale and most likely season 3. But I'm on a slightly more positive note, but we'll just have to see.
Yes, we will.
Okay, bye. Okay, so we just watched the 8th episode of season 2 of American Gods, and it was called Moonshadow?
Yes.
Was that right? Okay. I feel like we already had an episode called that, but...
I think they have called him that before.
Yeah. I liked this one. A lot. I'm fairly certain I followed it, but I was at least, it felt the most avant-garde. It felt more like the first episode and
Like of the whole series, you mean?
yeah,
Okay.
it felt, well, closer to season 1, and that's been our huge issue, in particular mine, but I don't know what's going on. You know, you've read the book, and to a large extent, I guess, or in a grand scheme, they're following the book, but things here and there are different. So it's like, I don't really know what we're going to. I do feel like not knowing what we're building to, the season felt like we were wasting a lot of time for reasons that I don't really know why.
Yeah.
Because like in season 1, I also had that feeling that we were wasting a lot of time, but it was in a thrilling world building sort of way.
Yeah.
My fear in covering the season was that it was basically going to be me complaining about the budget for 8 episodes straight, and it has been that. But I do think I've brought things to it. I mean, I think I've sort of explained some of my issue, and I feel like season 2 had a lot more people in rooms talking about half concepts.
Yeah.
I feel like not everything fully landed, and there were more efficient ways, and certainly more efficient visual ways to get to things. So I did really enjoy this episode. I enjoyed the opening a lot. I kind of laughed because while I didn't like call it a mile away, there was a part of me that was like, the second it started, I was like, we're doing War of the Worlds. I was like, okay, awesome. That's the kind of stuff that I really love. And it's the kind of stuff that I like when the show leans into that. It's the most I have enjoyed Mr. World this season.
I agree with that for sure. I liked him so much in season 1 because he was sort of like the shark from Jaws, where like we didn't see him that often. And then he's been in like literally every episode of the season, and I'm like, okay, I get Crispin Glover. I like Crispin Glover. I think Mr. World is interesting, but like this is too much of Crispin Glover just like doing his weird thing
just,
out
like,
loud.
Scheming in a room, yeah.
Right.
I do weirdly kind of like how often the show takes time to very self-indulgently remind you of itself.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I feel like other people would certainly complain about, but just that like notion that every so often the show reminds you that in this world, if you believe in it, it can be real.
Yeah.
To the point where that kid like self-manifested an alien abduction. And who knows how real that was, but it just like, it could have easily just been a cautionary tale, but I really like that. I like when the show goes broad that way with its paintbrush, its strokes, and even like the movie set, it's like, yeah, I really enjoyed this opening. I guess I wrote some notes down. I was also trying to make breakfast, and usually I try to like laser focus on this stuff. A lot of times, like most of these episodes I watched twice before we recorded, and we just don't have the time right now. But, well, Mr. Wednesday ran away, just like peaced out. I liked Shadow and Laura's scene a lot. I liked it so much so that I just assumed it was a dream at first.
Right.
Because I felt like they were getting things accomplished in a way. Like there was an honesty between them that I was like, well, this can't be real.
Yeah.
And it was. She, in our opinion, was very lost this season.
I think they found her a little bit again in this episode, but yeah, for the most part, Laura has been trying my patience a little.
Well, I really like her kind of like Demi Lovato, sorry, not sorry type of thing.
Yeah.
And I like when Laura's blunt. I like when she's matter of fact. And even frankly, I mean, it was kind of silly, but I kind of liked the puppy thing.
Yeah.
The origin story, and that she just wanted a puppy.
Like so bad.
And where did her story go? She had another confrontation with Bilquis, ever the enigma, and Bilquis just sort of told her about Mad Sweeney. That was it?
Yeah, and then she stole Mad Sweeney. Yeah. I'm not sure where she's going with that. I assume she's going to bring him back to life, but I don't know.
Well, we had read, I guess I had read that he was done, like hard done. But, you know, as we famously say, that showrunners do nothing but lie through their teeth. So
yeah, also, Pablo Schreiber, I saw him tweet something where someone was like, you've got to come back, right? And he, like, subtweeted them, and it was like they had used a picture of him standing next to Wednesday's head on the pike. And Pablo Schreiber said, let's just call this foreshadowing.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, man, whatever you say.
Well, I mean, we'll probably see him again, but I don't know that he's going to be a series regular in season 3.
Right.
Basically, Mr. World and media framed Shadow Moon for terrorism.
It was Shadow, Wednesday, and Salim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Salim came in later, and Mr. Wednesday can just, blink himself out of there.
Sure.
But that I thought was pretty cool. I liked that. It went back to the police station massacre in season 1.
Right.
Okay. And there was something about like a hack on the financial institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Did we see that, or was that news this?
I'm pretty sure that was news this episode.
Okay, because they did like a weird kind of bank robbery in season 1, but I couldn't remember if that...
No, that was not the same as what they're... Like, media, I think, was doing that while she was framing them.
Mm-hmm. And then the son, which he got a name of Mr. Z, he had some sort of breakthrough, and he brought Technical Boy back?
He upgraded Technical Boy.
Okay. Did he know what he was doing while he was doing it, or is that the abstract this show trades in?
I mean, maybe a bit of both.
Okay.
It seemed like he knew what he was doing, but he also seemed a little bit surprised when it worked.
Okay. So Technical Boy is back and stronger?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he got a little bit of a makeover.
Mm-hmm.
He's not wearing those shitty clothes anymore.
By the end, I liked them. I was like, they're just so committed to it. But he's like in a Tron like suit now. But is he with media and Mr. World again, or is he on his own now?
I have no idea. I don't know where anybody falls out at the end of this season, because I think Bilquis pushed Shadow into knowing because she wants everybody on like equal footing. And
she pushed him into knowing what?
About Wednesday.
Okay, so you think that was brought on by her?
I think it was on, yes, because she like touched his forehead.
I thought she changed him too. Was she the one that did that?
She changed Shadow?
Yeah, because the police didn't recognize him. His ID was different, and they didn't...
Oh, I actually kind of thought Shadow did that himself.
Okay.
I think I'm most interested in Bilquis going forward, because I think she's in a really interesting spot where it's like she doesn't want to work for Mr. World anymore, and instead being beholden to Wednesday is just like trading one tyrant for another. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, we need to do something different. And so I think she did that to Shadow so that she can push him into being the leader.
Well, and also, I think we're in a very you can be the king but watch the queen conquer place right now.
Also, yes.
And I mean, she had a line of dialogue this season where she said that she was already ancient when Wednesday was born.
Yeah.
She was like, I was already ancient in the desert when you were but a thought, or something like that. By now, I'm definitely in for next season. Mm-hmm. And from here, I'm in a completionist where it's like, I'm going to see this through.
Yeah.
I can't I will go as far as to say that I am enjoying it again. I'm enjoying it in a lesser capacity, but I do wish that we got just a little bit more from everybody, from everything. And by that, I don't mean that the actors aren't giving enough, but it's like, I wish I had just, a skosh more understanding of what Bilquis was doing in particular, because they even acknowledged the kiss that she gave Laura and nothing really came of it. And it's like, that's the kind of plotting that I'm like, I feel like something should be, like, that felt like a blessing. And so I feel like that should be explored, and maybe it will be, I don't know. She also kissed Shadow in this, and I think that was the first time she had not kissed him before. We got a big reveal, and did I ever question this? Did I ever say anything about this?
No.
The reveal? I didn't.
I don't think so.
It's so obvious. I cannot believe I never suspected. Like, painfully obvious as it was happening. I was like, oh my God. And I guess maybe that's the thing, is because you've said this to me before, is that sometimes I just sort of discount things.
Yeah, because they're so obvious.
So it's that Shadow is Wednesday's son.
Uh-huh.
I think because I had accepted so, like, completely that he was Native American, I wasn't thinking of Ian McShane. I realize that these are probably things you can't fully comment on yet, unless you can, but I just assumed that either his mother or father, one of his parents was Native American and one of his parents was Black. That was my assumption. But, there's no reason why his mother couldn't have also had, Native American. And, frankly, Odin came to America, so I
think the Native American imagery is mostly just because it's taking place in America.
Okay. Well, and Sam Black Crow is allegedly a character, but I've yet to see the receipts.
I was pretty pissed she didn't come back in this, especially because the middle part of the book is, Sam and Shadow are, in the same place, the whole middle part of the book. So I'm thinking maybe that'll happen in season 3.
Are we approaching season 3 like it's the last, or?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably would. Just in case.
Yeah, someone threw down the number 5, but that felt like a very early in season 1 thing.
5 would be... I think that was the original intention, was to have the book be 3 seasons to give Neil Gaiman time to write 2 more seasons worth of stuff. But yeah.
What we have now, I don't know that it could sustain 3 more seasons.
Yeah, it depends. I could see 4, for sure. But 3...
So then we still have plot to go through?
We have not even remotely gotten to the end of the book.
Okay, wow.
We're not even close to the end of the book.
So then I actually have no idea what we're dealing with. Then.
No. There's been literally... From what I remember, we are a third of the way through the book because so much of season 2 was...
Nothing.
Brand new. Yeah.
Okay. So then this must have been a frustrating viewing for you.
Quite.
We did a little bit of role reversal.
Yeah, it's fine and it's whatever. If they plan to keep going, if they plan to do the rest of the book at least partially, because otherwise why did you even cast Sam Black Crow? If you're not going to do that whole part, why even bring her up? Just make her a lost character from the book. But
yeah, well, we are also wanting for a Native American presence in a show called American Gods. So.
Exactly.
I'm going to have faith the way that they talked about her.
Yeah,
That's what the show's about.
I'm excited.
They said something neat about how Shadow's ignorance, it was Ibis and I think Nancy were talking, and one of them said something about Shadow's ignorance being a problem, and the other one said Shadow's ignorance is what's giving them power.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. So, Wednesday fucked off. Shadow did something in Yggdrasil and powered out of there. Magic. There was a lot of because magic in a way that it's I got it. I was able to logically get from not logically, but I was capable of getting from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But I can't help but have wanted just a little bit more.
Yeah, I get it. I definitely agree. I also think Starz should sometimes take up the HBO idea and have some extended episodes, because I feel like this could have benefited from 10 to 15 more minutes.
Gotta get to Now Apocalypse, Kristen.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
So, do you have anything? Is there any season 2 thoughts? We've been pretty much, chronicling everything in real time, how we feel.
Yeah, so. I think it was a little too meandering.
Considering that they were streamlining things, it's how did you manage to...
How did you manage to streamline all your costs and then waste all this time? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so I am pro and against. It's just sort of, it's par for the course. I'm interested in season 3, so I guess we'll see around this time next year what's going on.
Well, and frankly, this is a very dour note to end on, and I didn't want to end on this, but, as someone who has lived my life going from piece of media to piece of media to piece of media, I have lost a lot of things that I loved,
Yeah.
And I've always thought, oh man, if only the show could keep going. And as I've gotten older and stuff and seen some shows that do keep going, sometimes less is more.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I would have killed for a season 2 of American Gods, and now that I've gotten it, I'm kind of
yeah.
Not what you wish for.
Not like this.
So when something like Happy Endings only lasted 3 seasons, I sit there and think, well, maybe season 4 would have been terrible, if if it had jumped networks or something. So, and we have mentioned that there's going to be a third showrunner typically that's not how things go when there's this kind of chaos behind the scenes. They don't magically get better the more shakeups there are.
Right.
But you never know. We could see. I don't think anything this season was outright bad, or at least I can't remember. I'll have to listen to our stuff. I was pretty mad in episode 2.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We're going to have faith. And do we think we're getting it next year, or do we think we're going to have to go another 2 years?
Was it 2 years?
Yeah, 17 to 19.
Oh shit, maybe. I don't know.
This we should be able to get next year, by the summer, definitely.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, well, as always, you can follow us on Twitter, @SoI'mWatching, Instagram, @SoI'mWatchingTheShow. We are also on Facebook and Tumblr, So I'm Watching the Show. You gonna add anything to the playlist?
Just the theme song. It's pretty rad.
We are also now on YouTube, and you can link out to everything from our website, soimwatching.com. And other than that, just rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen.
Bye.
Bye!